Fairy Tail 100 Years Quest Chapter 194 is officially out, and I have to say, I'm impressed with this chapter. I do have my criticisms, but I think overall I'm satisfied with this chapter as something came out of it that I wasn't expecting, and I kinda really like. Though we will have to see how things play out after the events of this chapter. But before we dive straight into things, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps, and it shows you guys the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. Also, YouTube added a hype button down below or on screen wherever you're watching the video. That hypes up the video in the algorithm and helps put it on a leaderboard with other smaller creators. That'll really help this channel and these videos, so go and hype up the video right now. And if you haven't already, go and check out my manga podcast, Shonen Pulse, over in the Panel Focus YouTube channel, where me, Nox, Yatogami, and Papa Trophy talk about 9 different manga from 3 different magazines on a weekly basis. It's a lot of fun, and we dive deep into all these chapters and with all our discussions. So come join the discussion right now. Link to that channel will be in the description down below. And also, if you want to see even more of me, go and check out my second channel, GW Comics, where I talk about American comic books. It's a passion project of mine, and I'm mainly talking about a lot of different comics, so if you want to see me talk about different storylines and events and just my general thoughts on things, go and check it out. Link to that will also be in the description below. But with all that out of the way, let's jump right into this chapter. So chapter 194 of Fairy Tail 100 Years Quest, titled True Aim. Cover image is of Faris sitting on a chair, with the acnologia arm out present, with an image of acnologia right behind her, showcasing once more that she is taking on the will of acnologia. So we start directly from last chapter, where Beastia was basically ran through with the power of Faris. And once Beastia falls to the ground, it's then that Eleftheria brings Team Natsu over to Faris' location, as they're nowhere near Ignia, where they were supposed to go, but apparently this is as far as Eleftheria was able to take them. But it's then that Team Natsu sees that Beastia was really defeated by Faris in a pretty brutal manner, as Natsu once more gets the dumb treatment, I guess, where he mistakes her for food due to having to eat her flames that Misfortune kept telling him about. But they look up, and all of them finally see Faris looming over them, flying in the air. Which, not too surprised that she is floating. This is actually a pretty interesting thing. Not many, if any, characters in Fairy Tail really fly. The only ones that actively can't fly are Jalal, Erza with some of her armors, and I believe that's it. No one in Fairy Tail really flies. I just came to that whole realization with this. No one really flies much at all in Fairy Tail. That's kind of embarrassing that I just realized that now. Holy crap. But yeah, Faris is looming over them, as with a smug look says that it's the ones that slaughtered her master. Once more, the reverence of acnologia, and referring to him as her master shows that she might really be kind of an acnologia zealot in this instance. But Eleftheria is definitely concerned after looking over to her. He most likely feels the essence of acnologia emanating from her. But instead, there's a massive rumbling that gets everyone's attention, even Faris catching her by surprise, as they're wondering what's going on, as this seems to be Ignia's magic. But we then get to see this dark energy rumbling across the continent, making its way towards Team Natsu, as something comes from the ground and begins wrapping around everybody. And no one is of any exception. Anybody on the ground is getting tied up and pinned down by what seems like dark earth magic, from what I can tell, or something of the like. And no one's really able to move right now, as it's draining their strength. But we then see on Natsu that thanks to these, his body is beginning to dragonify. He's growing scales. But it's not just Natsu. Lucy, Gray, Erza, everyone on the ground is starting to dragonify. They haven't been dragonified at all in these entire span of chapters, due to most likely the destruction of Lacrima and the fact that they weren't on ground zero when those Dragon Lacrima were activated. But instead, Faris puts everything together and points everything towards Alderone, saying Ignia's true goal lies within Alderone. as she looks over to where Alderon's location is, saying the other giant lacrima were just a bluff. Decoys. The real power behind everything was collected inside Alderon. Earth magic to turn this continent into a continent of dragons. And after being told that Alderon is the key to this real dragonification, they try and break free, but they're slowly dragonifying and their strength zapped, and Eleftheria doesn't have any magic, can't use his magic to teleport them away. As we see this dark substance head towards the Diablos Guild, dragonifying them as well. Hey look, it's the one guild that was introduced to be powerhouses in the sequel series that we have not seen in over 2 arcs. Wow, sure nice to see them be continuously irrelevant. Wouldn't a whole arc around dragons would be great to have more dragon slayers, am I right? I'm really pissed that we don't get Diablos in this section of the story, except for a brief mention. Hopefully they jump in at a later point, I swear to God. But yeah, the dark energy begins to turn them into dragons, but we then get to head back to Ermina, where Merkphobia is, and even Caramel and all the citizens are beginning to dragonify once more. So many towns are getting covered up in this darkness and dragonifying everybody, even re-dragonifying people that underwent dragonification before. As we get through all this, we cut back to Ignia, as, with a smirk, says, now the whole continent will be a nation of dragons, thanks to Dogramag's ultimate magic, Universe Omega. As the reason all this is happening, brought forth by one of the dragons in the Calamity Bloods, is that the magic with the underground networks of Dogramag finally all connected, turning this place into a nation of dragons, as Alderon's giant lacrima is what's really going to turn people into dragons, and so this entire continent will no longer be of humans, but dragons. I'm going to stop right here, because this really makes me feel like Ignia planned everything out, and this was a really, really nice bluff. He played us all for fools. We thought, oh, the dragon gods have all these lacrima here. Oh, these are the big keys to his plans and the revival of the dragon gods, making them so much more stronger. But turns out, those lacrima were all giant bluffs. Yes, even the ones that were slowly turning other people into dragons weren't the real thing, because it was already established that Dogramag laid roots throughout all of Giltina. And so now that they're all connected, and since we have dragonification magic with literally the largest dragon god ever that is the size of literal mountain ranges, if not beyond that, having his own giant lacrima within him, all that connected to the rest of the continent, he is using this as the real nexus point for the dragonification of the entirety of the continent, to the point where now it's actually starting to affect our main cast. Which also ends up being something interesting, because Dragon Slayers like Wendy and Natsu, due to the intervention of Grandina and Igniel, should have immunity to turning into dragons. But I guess due to the nature of this spell, of this magic, Universe Omega, which honestly, kudos for this being another universe spell, like Irene's Universe 1, this is dragonifying even Dragon Slayers that seem to have an immunity to turning into dragons due to what happened previously. Which is crazy. Which kind of makes this seem that Ignia was one step ahead of everybody, putting everyone in a wild goose chase to take on the dragon gods and these lacrima as a distraction from his real goal. And it also makes sense why Alderon was, quote-unquote, seemingly defeated by the demons of Faris. He wasn't. He just came right out of the ground. He was the real nexus point. And I think that's kind of cool, I'm not going to lie. Now, obviously, this does bring up into questions, how long will this last? Because there is definitely a lot of things to consider when it comes to this entire grand scheme of Ignia. Will this instantly dissipate if the lacrima is destroyed, if Selene versus Alderon goes the way of Selene and she beats him and destroys that giant lacrima within him? Or will this seemingly stop, but if you're partially turned into a dragon, you will still have those dragon parts, unless Wendy can undo it herself due to her enchantment magic and stuff like that. But we have to wait and see. At least for now, Team A taking on the Calamity Bloods at the moment is postponed for the time being. And the direction of things could sway differently going forward. But back to the chapter. After the dragon gods are privy to Ignia's plans of dragonifying the entire continent to get rid of humans and turn everyone to dragons, Ignia does tell them that he's not going to kill Natsu yet, as he then seemingly has telepathy magic, similar to Warren, signals out and calls out to Beastia, asking if she hears him. And that's when she wakes up, as she then appears as flames behind Natsu, even surprising Faris, as she grabs onto Natsu and encases him in flames, as everyone is basically helpless to do anything to help Natsu, as in a pillar of flame and smoke he disappears. Now everyone's wondering, did she kill Natsu or something? Even Lucy is in shock based off how this went, but Faris reassures them that he's not dead, he just got relocated. It was relocation magic. But she says that right now there's something more important that she has to deal with, and that this situation isn't good for her either. Which is interesting. Could this mean that she'll also be turned into a dragon? Or will this complicate her true aims? Perhaps bringing back acnologia? I'm going to do a whole video on this, and this actually adds to another section of that theory that I have brewing in my head. So I'm planning to make that video for next week, so look forward to that. But she then flies off, saying that she will handle Alderaan. So now, that fight's going to get interrupted by Faris, so I'm curious to see how that's going to go around, have it be a 2v1 or a 3-way free-for-all. So that'll be interesting if we actually get to see the entirety of that fight. Also, Faris going back to her demons, I'm curious to see how that will lead. Maybe she'll resurrect them or even give them power to make the fights more challenging. I know I'm coping with those demon fights for Fairy Tail Team B and the Irrational Sace and all that stuff, but here's me hoping that the fights aren't going to be over quickly or just over just yet. But hey, you can't blame me for coping or hoping for the best. But anyway, everyone is concerned for Natsu, wondering what to do since they have no real power right now as they're all slowly turning into dragons, even the Exceeds. But Carla says I need to have faith right now as Erza reassures them that her friends are there at Alderaan, obviously Team B and the rest of the Sace, and Celine. And so this reassures everybody to hold strong, with Lucy wondering if Natsu is okay. So, Team A is out of commission due to how the dragonification is working, and I'm curious to see what's going on actually with Team B and the Irrational Sace, because they are literally in the epicenter of the dragon lacrima. So is that affecting them yet? Is that going to turn the scale of the fight to the opposing enemies? Who knows? That's something to keep in mind. But Natsu is teleported to the same distorted flame dimension that Beastia teleported herself in Faris when their own fight began. And that's when Beastia lets go of Natsu, as another flame appears in front of him. It's Ignia, showing himself before Natsu, saying that I've been waiting for you, brother. And as Ignia looks towards him, Natsu gets a smirk, saying, geez, I ain't even got a half-decent brother, as the chapter ends. First off, I like that Ignia acknowledges Natsu as his brother. That's kind of pretty cool. That's kind of his way of acknowledging wholeheartedly Natsu. But also, we're seemingly getting a real Natsu versus Ignia fight set up right now. Now, this probably isn't going to be the fight that we will get for Natsu versus Ignia, but probably like a round 1 of this fight. And Natsu has technically begun to dragonify due to the magic. But based on Ignia saying he doesn't want to kill Natsu just yet, so what could this mean? Could he be intentionally having Beastia bring Natsu to this dimension so he can eat her flames to make him stronger and unleash his true powers? Especially now that he's beginning to dragonify? Or is Ignia planning to fight Natsu non-stop so he can grow during their little like sparring match fight so Natsu can be a proper challenge to him? Something is up with Ignia. It'd be interesting if we end up making this space like a hyperbolic time chamber type thing where only a couple of minutes pass by back where everyone else is, while meanwhile weeks if not months can go by in here as Natsu's just continuously fighting Ignia, slowly getting stronger and stronger or something like that. I don't know. Possibilities are endless, but at the very least we're getting a setup for an actual Natsu versus Ignia fight, so I'm looking forward to that. Either way, my overall thoughts on this chapter, I liked the twist that Ignia basically played the entire main cast like fools, that the entirety of the Dragon Lacrima stuff across the nation was just a giant bluff, barely even what was needed to dragonify the country, because now that Dogramog's roots connected, the Lacrima in Alderaan, the largest of the dragon gods, and is a literal living maze if anybody goes in there, and can attack from any direction if you're inside his body, is literally connected and is the epicenter, making a mass dragonification across the continent, even dragonifying characters that weren't affected previously, probably because of their own strength and unwillingness to turn into dragons, for all we know. But that is a crazy thing to really reveal in this chapter, which means there's still more to come. Faris is on her way to Alderaan now. Maybe that'll give the demons a second wind or more power or even a second form. And Team B and the Irrational States might be in trouble if they're suffering the same effects as Team A, since they are in the epicenter there. And I'm curious to see if we'll get a three-way brawl between Faris, Selene, and Alderaan's core in the upcoming sections of the story. And the Ignia versus Natsu fight seemingly is about to begin. There's a lot of good in this chapter and a lot of praise I have, but obviously any of these can go wrong if handled poorly, and also poorly paced. With how things are, we're not fighting the Calamity Bloods just yet, but there's still a lot to really look forward to, so hopefully this is the part of the story where things pivot to really be the true core of the arc, and things start going up, or at least a slight improvement over what we've been getting so far. I'm optimistic, but we'll have to wait and see. Leave your thoughts and opinions on everything that's happened in this chapter down below, your theories on what's going to happen, and how you feel about the twist overall. And once more, if you haven't already, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel, and shows you want to see more. With all that said and done, I hope you all have an awesome day.